one of the things I wanted to talk about was some of the things I've read that you've discussed in terms of strength and hypertrophy. And there was an interesting video I was watching last night actually about the mind-muscle connection and in terms of internal and external influence. And it's not something, you seem to break things down into a level that I suppose most people don't think about, but just talk about that. It's something that we've talked to people on the podcast about, this mind-muscle connection, but explain what you believe about that and just talk a little bit about this sort of internal and external influence, if that's the right word.
All right, in a nutshell, if you're about to do a task, all right, if this task involves performance, meaning you need to jump as far as you can, or you need to lift the most weight possible, or you need to, throw the hardest punch, or you need to throw a dart as accurate or putt as accurately as possible, you would never think of the muscles. There's this constrained action hypothesis that was developed by Dr. Gabriel Wolf, and she basically said that when you focus externally on the environment, think about putting, you watch the hole and you think of, like, I'm gonna drive through. I don't know what cues golfers use. What I do not know is what cues they use, but I'm pretty sure they would think of the environment. Mm-hmm. They'd think of the club head or the hole. If you're throwing a dart, you'd think of don't look at the big thing, just focus on that little bullseye, something like that.
If you're punching, and you wanted to hit a hard punch, you'd be focusing on what you're punching as opposed to...
punch through the pad. But you would not ever focus on your muscles.
Right.
You wouldn't be like, okay, you're about to putt. I want you to grip this club just the right amount. I want you to focus on, I don't even know what muscles are involved in a putt. I want you to... obliques, I don't even think. It's just like a shifting side to side. But you don't want to draw attention to your muscles because your body knows what to do. It will activate the precise motor units in the precise amounts at the precise timing. It synchronizes everything together to carry out that action in the most efficient way possible to maximize performance.
But you have to, and I'm just on that, but providing that you're laser focused on sort of the task in hand and what you're going at.
Something outside the body.
Right.
And I guarantee there's more to it. This is not my... One thing you know when you're a PhD, one thing you should know, because there's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger Effect where basically everyone thinks they're smarter than they are about things. And the dumber you are, the more you overestimate your own intelligence, and the more you underestimate the true expert's intelligence. And you see that all over social media these days, right? Johnny the blogger knows more than the top scientist on this topic. And there's no convincing him otherwise. That's the Dunning-Kruger effect. And scientists are supposed to be better at that, but I found that even medical doctors seem to be the worst. They think since I'm a doctor, I'm a medical doctor, I'm an expert on anything, or they're clueless. The vast majority are so clueless about strength training and exercise, it's deplorable. They give the worst advice. Quit lifting. Do not lift weights for the next few months. You're telling me you can't... And it's so sad that we can't set the bar higher and expect these doctors to learn the slightest fucking thing. Am I allowed to cuss? No cussing.
You've done
the slightest effing thing about resistance training. Because most of the time these people could do light curls. If it's about their heart rate, say, wear a monitor and don't get your heart rate up. Do one arm at a time to minimize the amount of muscle that you use. You can do some stuff. Put on a glute loop and you can do band abduction, band kickbacks, keep your glutes activated. Because we don't want people to stop. We don't want them bed rest. We don't want them just sitting, doing nothing. We want them resistance training. And if you can't do... my whole life I've lifted weights. No matter what's been going on, I try to do what I can. And I've been lifting weights for 30 years. And you can't just quit. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have issues. You're fatigued. You still got to keep going and just do what you can, train around the issue. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And for a lot of these things, I am the world's expert on glutes. Very confident about that. No one has put in the research. No one goes the lengths that I go to. However, I'm not the expert on internal versus external, on cueing for performance. So I would need to spend a month of my life really reading all those papers and then contacting those professors and asking them questions. In a month, I could be really smart at it. These people have spent their whole careers on it, you know. But what I will say is basically, there's probably more to it than just internal versus external. I'm sure.
When would you use internal? So
I'm
you
sure
said you'd use
like
external.
things that maximize performance, motivational stuff. You know, like maybe for one person it's, hey, pretend your family's captured and you're going to get them back if you achieve this. Or financial, hey, if you get this, pretend you're going to win $1 million. Or actually, hey, here's $100 if you hit this lift.
So that would be an example of internal.
No, that's different.
Okay.
Internal,
that's another one.
Yeah, I don't even know what category it's called. It's
so external is like the putter,
focusing on the environment,
right? And then internal,
something outside the body. Internal is focusing on something within the body. So, in the case of so I always say this: if you're trying to maximize muscular development, then you should some of the time focus on the muscle at hand. Yes, it's going to overactivate that muscle. If you wanted to lift for the most reps, don't focus on that muscle, but you won't have quite as high of muscle activation and muscle force during that. So you should, especially towards the end of the workout, do some things where you're squeezing, focusing on that muscle. And Brad conducted a study. I was on that paper. We provided the first evidence in support of the mind-muscle connection. Back then, all the naysayers were saying, no, external is always better in every case. There was one outspoken coach that was like, strength coach, and he was like, I rarely ever make bold claims, but I can honestly say in every scenario, external is better than internal. I'm going, think about all the cues that like Louis Simmons and Dave, to these guys that were popular powerlifters would use to teach form. Chest up, knees out, you know. These are internal cues, you know. And so there's no reason to throw those out. And
so when you're doing glutes then, are you getting...
Yes, squeeze the glutes, feel the glutes, squeeze the glutes at the top of a hip thrust. That's fine to say. Not always, not if they're trying to do a 1 rep max, you don't want to be like, squeeze your glutes. You would be like, picture driving that bar through the roof or something, I don't know. But anyway, we provided the first evidence in support of the mind-muscle connection, not with the quads, but with the biceps. The biceps grew larger from focusing on the muscle.
And is that a fact then based on your research then? If you're purely looking to build your biceps, then that mind-muscle connection on the bicep and squeezing and focusing on it, that has a benefit than just putting a lot of weight through, would you?
Based on that study, but ideally in any situation, you wouldn't just go off one study you'd want, but that's the only study on the matter. So we don't have like definitive, this is nail in the coffin, because there could be other scenarios, but I don't say all the time do that, some of the time. So I like the first exercise of the workout, go heavier, don't just focus on the muscle, focus on your mechanics, focus on the environment, focus on setting performance goals. Then you can switch more towards the mind-muscle connection, especially towards the end of the workout. But I could be wrong about that.